this fantastically engraved bone inlay is symbolic of the celebration of love. So you have this wonderful, very chinoiserie peasant with his marvellous hat and his companion, and all the way through all of the marquetry.
South German Rococo emerged a full generation before the style took hold across the rest of Europe. The courts of Munich and Salzburg were pulling French ornament into their workshops, while Paris was still drawing in Regent's rules. The princely grade marquetry workshops at Augsburg dominated this output for the Holy Roman Empire, producing dynastic wedding furniture for the small German courts and Habsburg estates alike. A piece on this scale, with intact armorial quarterings, would have been ordered through a court agent rather than over the counter, often a year of work for 2 or 3 named craftsmen. The best comparable survivors today are in the Bayerisches National Museum in Munich, which has been collecting South German furniture since its founding in 1855.
Unidentified. Because this is, I mean, as a celebration of marriage, this is exactly what one would expect to see, would be the quarterings of the arms of what were 2 very grand, well, one an Austrian and one a very grand princely family, linking and uniting together. And also the stretcher itself has a further armorial device. What's very surprising for me is that all of the treatment of the rocaille and the engraving and the marquetry is typical of the German Rococo, which happened remarkably early in the 18th century.
Yes.
And then it is dated quite distinctly 1730. So,
and you think that that would have been put on at the time?
I'm usually very sceptical about dates, but I think I would. Everything hangs together very, very well on this.
Right.
I don't think you'd ever be able to replace it because I've never seen one of this quality before. I mean, have you an idea in your mind of a sort of level that you feel happily insured with it? Or?
Well, we haven't really had a reliable valuation at all.
Well, I will try and do my best at a reliable valuation.
Yes.
I think this ought to be insured for £30,000.
Really?
It is a really fantastic piece of South German furniture.
I inherited it from my mother, and she had been given it, I think, by an old admirer of hers.
That must have been some admirer.
It probably was some admirer, and I would guess probably in the 1920s.
In here you see a whole bank of little drawers painted with these wonderful Dutch landscapes.
Yes.
They're painted in oil on a small oak panel, and I think this is 17th century, so let us say it will date from about 1630, 1640, made probably in and around the Antwerp area, and the inspiration of the
A. Milne's stories.
And she said that is Pooh evolving from the family Teddy, who was called Growler.
Yes, so he's not quite the sort of the rotund, dumpy little Pooh that we all know and love from the books.
Yes, eating too much.
Because he's not quite there yet. And underneath, Tigger.
Tigger, who is just sprung, fully formed from...
Ernest Howard Shepard was a working illustrator for Punch magazine when A. Milne first asked him to draw the bear in 1924. The Pooh sketches were modelled on Shepard's own son Graham's Teddy, not on Christopher Robin Milne's bear, a detail that surprised the Milne family when Shepard admitted it decades later. Tigger arrived in the second book, House at Pooh Corner, in 1928. Shepard kept his rejected studies in a portfolio at his country home in Lodsworth, West Sussex, where he lived until his death in 1976, aged 96. The original Pooh map of the 100-acre wood, drawn for the end papers of the first book, sold at Sotheby's London in July 2018 for £430,000. It remains the auction record for any book illustration.
I don't know what it is, but particularly amongst Americans, it's like buying a piece of the charm of your own childhood back again. At least I assume that's what it must be, because they do pay the most astonishing sums for such things. Do you know what it's worth at all, or have any idea?
No, I don't, but it's different from being an actual illustration to the story. I see that.
I think so. Now, the finished pen and ink drawings for Winnie-the-Pooh, recently, 2 of them separately achieved £60,000 plus premium. Now, it's difficult to know where to put exactly to place this drawing in the structure of prices, but I think given that it is a working drawing, it's got to have an interest of its own as well. You know, I think it's going to add to its interest. Well, really, I think that we've got to put £10,000–15,000 on this drawing.
This video is brought to you by Velqo, the antique identifier app. Snap a photo of any item and Velqo gives you an instant identification and a value estimate from its database of millions of antiques and collectibles. Available free on the App Store and Google Play. Now back to the appraisals.
I wonder how many fortunes have been won and lost on that. Now, tell me the family history with this.
It originally came into the family through somebody.
Arthur Wellesley, the first Duke of Wellington, was famously known by his Apsley House address, No. 1, London, the first house you reached coming in past the Hyde Park toll gates. Wellington kept an unusually large household for a peer of the era and was known for personal gifts at the marriages of his staff, recorded in family papers held at Stratfield Say and later in the British Library. Multipurpose Regency games tables of this pattern, backgammon hidden under a checkerboard, with a rollback card surface above, were the height of drawing room fashion between 1790 and 1815. Many were made by Gillows of Lancaster, who supplied the Wellington household through the 1820s.
That's right.
And it's a reflection of the times and the character of the person. And as long as you keep the story with the table, you should write that down.
I have.
Excellent. Then and tuck it in the table so that
That's it.
in 100 years' time, when we do this again...
I took it out when I brought it here.
Oh, excellent. Oh, well, then I'm telling you what you've already done. That's excellent. Well done. But such a pretty table. And with family history, which makes such a difference. Provenance is so important today. It is sufficiently valuable that if it got damaged or stolen, then you should have some form of compensation by insurance. And for insurance purposes, it's £8,500.
One must think, well, possibly a work by Ellis Lowry might turn up. But I must say...
Lawrence Stephen Lowry painted at night and on weekends, and worked a full day as a rent collector and clerk for the Pall Mall Property Company in Manchester until he retired in 1952. By that point the Tate had been buying his canvases for nearly a decade. Lowry took long painting holidays in Berwick-upon-Tweed and the Borders from the late 1930s onwards. The matchstick crowds of his Manchester scenes are mostly absent from these northern landscapes, replaced by bare hills lit with that same ash-pale ground. His auction record stands at £7.8 million, set by going to the match at Christie's London in October 2022, bought by a private collector and now on long-term loan to the Lowry at Salford Quays. Lowry refused 5 British honours during his lifetime, including a knighthood, still the British record.
Colour and the busyness of the streets, and for my own taste, it is not too melancholic, it's not too brooding, it has a busyness and kind of optimistic air, which sometimes is not always apparent in his paintings. Thick paint, we call it impasto. You can see here that draw right through the thickness of paint across these bits here. And particularly love that passage here, these figures in the distance, so they're pushed in and just touched with colour. And also one of the things about it is one can judge it quite carefully because when they haven't been protected by glass, they get full of grime and dirt. And this has got glass on it and it's kept the dirt off it. You can see right the way through, and just a little bit of a gentle clean will bring it up into an absolute gem. Now, before we turn to values, let's also look at these other things. Tell me about this little drawing here.
This is a cigarette packet.
Right. Now you can see that because here are the folds of it here going across there. Yes.
When this lady was chauffeuring Lowry, he was sat in the car and he started to sketch this. And then when he finished, he was about to throw it through the window. And she said, "Don't do that." And he said, "Well, I'll sign it for you if you want it. It might be of some value someday."
Really? What a lovely story.
Yeah.
So do you think he really was going to throw it out the window?
Yeah. He didn't realise his value of his paintings then.
No. And we've got a photograph here of the great man himself.
Yeah.
And what is so interesting is that, of course, if you could just hold that a second, of course, it shows the subject. This is the painting, and this is the drawing for this painting, but it's the same subject, which is a ferry, isn't it, in Scotland, isn't it?
Yes,
the Scottish subject. Yes. And again, this is the later date, September 1958. Now, of course, what we must do is kind of try and work out the value. Now, my word of caution is the attributions must be confirmed by the Lowry Museum. But these little bits and pieces, the cigarette packet, I don't know whether it's worth 1,000 or more, but it could well be. This drawing, a number of £1,000s. But I think what we're really all dying to kind of really try and know is, what's this worth? Does your friend have any idea of what he thinks it's worth?
No, no.
He's a shy man, is he?
Oh yes, very shy.
Well, I think it's probably worth £100,000.
Oh, gosh. Oh. Oh.
It now becomes a horrible problem, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this one, hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next. And there are plenty more incredible appraisals waiting for you on the channel. Go check them out.